So greetings. I'm on my regular Wednesday class. So I have an audience here. I'm talking to Bo. I have an audience here, small audience, in the Govardhan Bhakta Seva Ashram. That's the name that we'll have. I'm trying to change it on Google Maps. When Vikram was here constructing, he needed to get things from Amazon. So he wrote Dhanurdhara Swami's ashram. So and before we begin, because you were all privy to our rasa in the last class where someone barged in. So, because some of you, I wrote an article on it in a nice way, but some of you weren't. I'll just explain briefly. It was a person that known for maybe 40 years. Actually, he was a disciple of Prabhupada that joined when he was 13 or 14 in the Berry place. And like many people, he feel some hurt or something like that. And it comes out in eccentric ways. So that was it. And I knew his kind of psychology, because normally you just throw a person like that right out. At least Jack was ready to do it. But I knew he was the kind of person that would create a scene. So I just spoke to him afterwards. And then we had that epiphany where, and I wrote about it, that because of Kartik and going around Govardhan and chanting so much, there's like consciousness affects environment. I've never experienced it that much. But I saw, he tries to trigger people and say outrageous things, and he tries to create a stir always. And I'm always deal with it in the same way. I don't react. But sometimes he can get really outrageous and things. But I just saw that, just by the power of consciousness, how his kind of constitutionally like arrogant and nasty side just wouldn't rise. And then the people outside, when Damodar finished, started doing this rip-roaring kirtan. And I guess he couldn't stay in that atmosphere, and he just peacefully left. But I can imagine people listening to it on the web, and some, coming in and saying, "Where was your damn ashram? I was looking for it for 2 hours. Okay, I'll come back in 10 minutes. But, But then he wrote me a very nice letter, which was uncharacteristic of him. And said he'll see me another 9 years. So, one thing I'm going to do, because we finished, because of that slight disturbance I didn't really finish the Brihad Bhagavatamrita to the level I wanted. So I will finish that I'll finish that next Sunday. And what I decided is because there's a core group here, about 15, 16, 20 people that attend both classes, but then there's another 10, 15 that only attend Sunday. So what I figured is I'm just going to give 2 different classes. And on Sunday, I'll continue the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And I'll just pick particular subjects that I think are relevant. So what I want to do is read and comment through a very interesting book. There's one respected sadhu in Varsana. He's still alive. And he chants the holy name from 5 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon for so many days. And I once went to his ashram. A friend of mine took me to his ashram, and it was like being in Jaiva Dharma. People were falling over each other to serve each other. So interesting. And then somehow or other, the person I'm with kind of knew him and went in at the end of his bhajan and told him I was there, like some important person. So they called me in. He was at the end of his bhajan, and I asked him one question, and I really liked his answer, because when someone knows Shastra, it's very balanced. In fact, Sambandha Gyan, or metaphysical knowledge, is called Sambandha Gyan. It's knowledge of relationship. And it can be looked at in many ways, but one way of knowing the truth is understanding the relationship between different truths. And that's what you get when someone reads Shastra from different angles. They become balanced. For example, I explained this many times, attachment and detachment. There's a balance. If detachment becomes too big and attachment becomes too small, then people start hating women, they start denigrating the Grihastha ashram. It doesn't work out. You're glorified for your external renunciation and not your devotion. So many things can happen. And if attachment becomes too big and detachment becomes too small, then one thinks that the Grihastha ashram is an item of devotional service, and one never plans a life of becoming gradually renounced. So I like when someone's real balanced. So all of a sudden I was in there, and he was so kind. He kind of was, probably didn't finish, it was 1:30, he didn't finish till 2 o'clock. And I asked him, when you're chanting Hare Krishna, can you think of Krishna's pastimes? His answer was very interesting. It was in 2 parts. So the first part was no, otherwise that would be inattentive chanting. And I thought, wow, this is kind of like how Prabhupada teaches things. And then he began chanting, and I was chanting, and he said, but you can try a little. So I kind of liked the balance of that, And then he said, I can't stay for prasad, but go out and take prasad. And it was amazing prasad. And I was just sitting there watching different sadhus falling over each other to honor each other. It was really something nice. And it was great prasadam. They have these kind of parathas where they have ladu in them. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. I call them liver stoppers. It's anyway, it was really nice prasadam. And then I got up and I finished and I went to wash. And then when I came back, he came running out of his room with a gift he got of a white pashima trotter. And he kind of took it out and he threw it over me and hugged me. And he was really respectful that you came. So he's kind of universally respected. And even when he went to Mayapur this year, even though he's from a different line, when he came, they brought him on the altar of Panchatattva and allowed him to offer. So he wrote 1 book in English, and I have the translation. And I thought we'd go through it. And it's very simple. And it discusses Panchanga Bhakti, the 5 most important items of devotional service. And it begins, which are kirtan, serving the deity, associating with devotees, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and living in Mathura. And then there's a few other subjects that he discusses: living in Mathura, Smara, knowledge and detachment, devotional practice for the householder, what shows we are progressing in bhakti, internal symptoms of progressing in bhakti, external symptoms of progress in bhakti, easiest way to get Sri Bhagavan's darshan, sharanagati, self-test, nectarian instruction. So it's a very, and he begins the whole thing. The first part is just about not criticizing Vaishnavas, as if, well, it is the foundation of bhakti. He doesn't want to even discuss the practices of bhakti until people get that idea of how serious it is to criticize Vaishnavas. And it's just so not understood in the culture of the West. People say we're Brahmins, and we're Brahmins, and therefore because we're Brahmins we can tell the truth, and and then you tell your truth, and generally your truth is virtue signaling, finding someone who's down, or made a mistake so that you could criticize them and get a reputation that you haven't deserved. I listened to this lecture by this intellectual psychologist. I said that many times. He said the most important commodity is reputation, and reputation comes from character, competence, over a long period of time. And then he made the point, in the modern age, people try to co-opt that system by, going to the internet and leading the charge against someone who made a mistake to kind of get reputation. And he said, he's a psychologist, he said the three types of people that gravitate towards that are the triad of evil: the sociopaths, the narcissists, and the Machiavellians. So this is, so he writes it in the form of a novel, and it's very simple. It's not like, so Vivek Das is the disciple and Gaur Kripa is the guru. So Vivek Das says, "O exalted soul, since many days a question is troubling me. If you take mercy on me and solve the problem, I shall consider myself truly blessed." And then his guru says, "Please tell me in detail. I'll try my level best to solve your problem." And Vivek Das, now you have to understand too, is that, that film in 26 Second Avenue or something, where Chutananda said, some people are high on a low platform and some people are low on a high platform, or something like that. So I feel like, the way they're talking is they're talking to people on a high platform, and they're trying to correct someone that's low on a high platform. So it may seem very high to us, but this is from the perspective of people that are sadhakas. And I went also last year with Sabyasachi. Before I left India, I went to Barsana and stayed overnight. I never did that. And there's a guest house near his ashram. And we did Nir Jalakadasi, and we did the whole Barsana Parikram. And then I'm kind of a strategist, so, they have the all-night kirtan. So I got back and I could sleep early. So I slept from about 6 or 7 to like 10 or 11. And I got up for the kirtan. When I got there, near midnight, I thought it started midnight or 11:30. It was already packed. And the only place I could sit was practically around the corner. But the Vaishnavas said, "No, come, even though these humble Indian Vaishnavas mostly were just, sitting calmly, peacefully. You saw the mood, the Vaishnavism come, put me right up in the front there, kind of, it's a raised platform where people sit. So I was sitting facing the kirtan. yeah. So I could see, from the people there, it was a very, very high culture, which enabled people to practice Nam Bhajan at a very high platform, even householders. It was like going back centuries. It was like being in Jaiva Dharma. So you'll see what the person's concern is, and we have a phrase. You said, when someone says something about when somebody mentions something, and they're denigrating it, but for you it's a high thing. You at least in my culture, you'd say, I should only be so lucky. So Vivek says, as a householder, I had heard Harikathan, the glory of Harinam from pure devotees. I understood that the only way to make this human life worthwhile is to obtain Sri Krishna Bhakti. And the easiest means to gain Krishna Bhakti is to chant Harinam. Hoite, Sute, Jota, Tota, Nam Loy, Desh, Kal, Niyam, Noi, Shaba, Shadahoy. From the CC, we should chant Harinam while eating and sleeping, anywhere and everywhere. We may chant anywhere at any time and reach the goal. It is with this expectation that I came to Vrindavan. Ever since I have reached Vrindavan, I've been chanting continuously, and I am trying my level best to perform all parts of bhakti. Yet I admit with regret that I have not made the slightest progress on the road of bhakti. Sabyasachi, who's staying with me, he's a kind of a nice sadhaka. 20 years ago, he went to see him, where he used to hide. His name is Vinod Baba. He used to hide and just do bhajan. And then when people would find out, he'd move to another place. So somehow Sabyasachi found out where he was. He wasn't big at that time. So Sabyasachi said to him, I've been chanting, and I don't think I'm making any advancement. And he turned to his disciples, this person must come from a very great guru, because he's understood. He's understood. Humility, humility, humility. So he really liked the question so much. He said, you should find out who his guru is. He is understood. And the same thing with Sridhar Maharaj tells the story where I told this before, two brahmacharis are sitting in the back, and he questions. They said, we've been devotees for 10 years and we don't have any taste. He said, good, and walked out. And then Sridhar Maharaj, kind of understood Bhakti Siddhanta's mind, that humility is the foundation. So he said, yet not only have I lost this eagerness, but also the early enthusiasm for chanting has disappeared. I do not feel happy anymore chanting Harinam. Although I am still chanting, I'm not relishing it. It is somewhat mechanical. In the beginning, whenever I saw the trees and creepers of Sri Vrindavan Dham, I used to enter some sort of bhav. But now when I see them, I am not only unhappy, but I also find all objects in Sri Dham as material. Earlier, I had heard the great glory of Sri Harinam, such as E Krishna Nam Kori Sabha Pap Hoy, Nabe Bida Bhakti Purna Nam Hoite Hoy, Anusanga Fale Kore Samsare Loy, Chitta Akorshia Kori Krishna Premadoy. One Harinam, Krishna Nam, can destroy all sins. The 9 activities of bhakti become perfect only when we chant Harinam. His prime function is to attract the heart and arouse Krishna Prem. To destroy material desires is only his secondary effect. In spite of chanting lakhs and lakhs of times, I can see no result. Rather, something opposite is happening. Earlier, I had contempt for some material things, and now the very same objects are attracting me. I feel I am losing all faith in the holy name. Please show mercy on me and help me out of this problem. There's one book written by one of the, I guess they were called Desert Fathers. What the culture of Christianity, like 500, 1,000 years ago, was quite profound. And they used to have these monasteries, but sometimes someone would go off alone in the forest and just, even this Vinod Baba said, 2 more years and I'm disappearing. You have 2 more years. So you go to they would go to the desert. And then there was one book written by a guy named John Climacus called The Ladder of Divine Ascent. He had these different qualities, and he talked about, giving up prestige. And he described how sometimes people would go to the forest and they would falter. And he would describe why, because when they were in the monastery, they were getting so much praise for their renunciation. And then he said, and when they went by themselves, they weren't fed by the manure of false prestige. So they had the wrong motive. So anyway, you're going to just see, it's just this one point that he wants to highlight. That the problem is, you criticize Vaishnavas. And it's so militant in this mood of non-criticizing Vaishnavas. It seems like this is the main realization of this person who's taken the vow of Haridas Thakur. His main realization. And his guru says, Gaur Kripa says, why are you so confused? Chaitanya Charitamrita is very clear on this matter. Sri Krishna Nam, Jari Loy Boyavar, Tobe Jode Nohi Prema Nohi Ashridar, Tobe Jani Tohi Te Aparad Prachar, Krishna Nam Bej Tahi Nai Hoy Ankur. Even if we chant the immensely powerful Krishna Nam countless times, and yet we do not gain prem, nor do we shed tears, then we should know that we have committed massive aparad. Hence, the chanting of Krishna Nam is not resulting in prem. So it's kind of very heavy, because we're just trying to chant something, and here's someone who's chanting and chanting and chanting, not getting the results. But I guess he's using this as to really highlight this point. It seems that bhakti is very simple. What's difficult is avoiding offense. Vivek, I accept what you say, but earlier I did not get pleasure out of chanting. I did get pleasure out of chanting, and I was very eager and enthusiastic. Then why has it decreased now? When we continue to chant Harinam, our interest and enthusiasm ought to increase, is it not? Yet why is it decreasing? Gaur Kripa, see, aparadas of 2 types. One, the aparads that we've collected over many earlier lifetimes. 2, the aparads we have committed in the present life. Our anurag, or attachment for Krishna, is proportional to the aparads in our past lives. I see, and it's rare, but I see that there are certain Vaishnavas, Manushanam Sahasreshu, Kastya Dyatati Siddhaye. There's certain Vaishnavas that are on the platform of Lila Smaranam, meditating on Krishna's pastimes while they're chanting. And it's not artificial either, because the people that I know that have that attraction for Radha and Krishna generally are the most detached people I know too. They don't have interest for those things in this world. So you wouldn't expect them so much to be so into Radha and Krishna in one sense, because it's not material. So I think there's certain people due to their past lives, they have profound attraction. The Prabhupada said no one can come to Krishna consciousness without some previous connection to it. But even if there's no connection, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one could get attraction. If such a person does not commit any further offense, then he will progress very fast in Sri Krishna Bhajan. Instead of this, if the opposite happens, that is, in spite of following all the paths of bhakti, if our interest and enthusiasm go down, we must accept that we are committing some offense somewhere. So, I was reading this, and it kind of affected me. Like really, I should be real careful. And when you try to be real careful, you realize how difficult it is not to criticize. Especially when you're dealing with things and you're dealing with situations, and then you really have to be pensive when you have to make a correction. Is it coming from the false ego, or is it coming from the desire to serve? And most of the times it's not. Most of the times it's unnecessary. I'm not saying it's never not necessary, but most of the times it's not necessary. It's just the impulse. And why is the impulse there? Because we've come to this world out of false ego, which is wanting to be superior. So the tendency and the liking for others to be down and use criticism as a means for that is so powerful in our consciousness. And it's so refreshing to see people who have made that vow never to criticize. I know people like that. I don't find out till later until I feel, wow, how are they like that? There's so many years I know them. They're never, they never have that enmity, that criticism, that anger for people. Even when you think it's so necessary and righteous, and they don't have it. Vivek Das, the disciple, this is making me very scared indeed. Please tell me more about this thing called offense, and please explain in detail about how it blocks the path of bhakti. I will be truly grateful. Gaur Kripa, look, our acharyas have stated 10 nama-aparads and 32 seva-aparads. The nama-aparads are greater than the seva-aparads. Again, amongst the nama-aparads, the offense called Vaishnava-aparad is the most dangerous. So I'm going to skip a little bit. Then he mentions the 10 offenses. And after that, he says, now I shall discuss the nama-aparad more in detail. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So he starts Vaishnava Ninda. And I believe that's all he explains. I don't think he gets into the other offenses. Because he says the other aparads break the branches and leaves of the wish-fulfilling creeper of bhakti. However, Vaishnava aparad is very powerful and it uproots the creeper altogether. If we commit the other aparads, the creeper will no doubt grow weak, but it will continue to live. However, if we commit Vaishnava aparad, the creeper of bhakti dries up completely. Vaishnav Ninda is not the only way to commit Vaishnava aparad. There are other ways too, because Ninda means criticizing. It says don't criticize, but he said, well, there's other ways. And he quotes from the Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas. Hanti nindanti vai dveshti Vaishnavam naba nadanti krujate yati no harshang darshane patanani sat. If we beat, criticize, disrespect, get angry with, do not express pleasure on seeing. do not pay obeisances, and do not glorify a Vaishnava, we commit Vaishnava aparad, Hari Bhakti Vilas. So it's good the acharyas should really set the ideals without compromise. Otherwise, the point won't be made strongly. We can try to apply them practically, but Srimad Mahaprabhu has especially warned the sadhaka about this Vaishnava aparad. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Bhagavat, Chaitanya Bhagavat mentioned Vaishnava aparad repeatedly. So now there's a long, long Bengali thing, but I'll just read the translation. Chaitanya Gosai, Sriman Mahaprabhu, delivered even the drunkards, but he sent the ones who indulge in Vaishnava Ninda in the Kumbhipaka hell. Gaur-Chand will deliver everybody except the ones who criticize the Vaishnavas, since they are the most fallen ones. And you can see that. People may make mistakes, they may have bad habits, but there can be so much mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're sincere, like that. I know, sometimes some of the best devotees I know have some of the greatest struggles, with bad habits and things, but they respect Vaishnavas, they try, so I can understand this. And then there are people that their food is criticism of Vaishnavas, and there's virtue signaling and leading the charge. And, I always remember there was this Indian gentleman who donated the land for the Gurukul. And he lived, when you go out of the guest house of the Krishna Balar Mandir and move towards the Prikram path, his house is on the right. And I used to go to his house just to get some rest and stay in the room on the roof. I knew him quite well. And he was very close with Prabhupada. He would massage Prabhupada because he was the only one that was a contemporary of Prabhupada. But this impressed me one day, not what he did, but he never got married. But he was kind of a business class person, but he never got married, but he was kind of retired to Vrindavan. And he had his gurus there. And then something happened with him and a maid. And then the local people, because there's always this competition for influence and power. The local, we call them gundas, found out, and they spread his name everywhere, and they were so happy. There's all this competition for power. Then I walked by his house, and I saw his godbrothers come from the Char Sampradaya. It's a famous lineage. And I just saw utter compassion. I really saw, I looked in, utter compassion. They were just figuring out how we can help you, how we can uplift you. They weren't kicking him when he was down. And they decided that, okay, you're getting older, why are you living here alone in your own mansion here? You come to our ashram. That's what they decided. And they brought him to their ashram. So that always impressed me. And that's why I liked living in India, because especially way back, is because you could see the Vaishnav culture. You can see the culture of India and how people behave, and then from the CC, he says, Henu Vaishnav Aparad Jaisi Utahati Mata Upariya Chindi Tar Shuki Jaipata. A Vaishnava aparad is like an intoxicated elephant. It uproots the wish-fulfilling creeper of bhakti and its leaves dry up. CC. Besides these, other shastras too have warned us about Vaishnava aparad. Ninder Kurvanti Ye Mudha Vaish. This is Skanda Prana. Vaishnava Nang Mahat manang, patanti pitrabhi sardang, maharorava sansate. All those fools who criticize Vaishnavas, they fall into Rorava hell along with their ancestors. Another thing, Skanda Prana, those who hurt Vaishnavas, all their pious activities, even those performed in previous lifetimes, come to a naught. And from the Bhagavatam, Sri Bhagavan is never ever pleased with all those who show disrespect towards Vaishnavas. So now you can understand how dangerous Vaishnava Aparad is. If we keep on collecting Vaishnava Aparad, there is no point in performing lots of bhajan. There is no way we can progress even the slightest bit in bhakti. Vaishnava Aparad does not constitute only Vaishnav Ninda or criticism. Maybe someone comes to you and does Vaishnav Ninda, but you say, yeah, that's right. Even then you will have to bear the entire effect of Vaishnava Aparad. It is like this. Suppose someone comes to you with an application. You do not say anything, but only sign it below. This is proof enough that you are making this statement. Similarly, if someone comes to you and does Vaishnav Ninda, and you quietly nod your head, then you should understand that you too are making the same comments. Very dangerous. People want to come and tell you all kinds of things. Vivek, that is all right. However, Shastras prescribe some behavioral code for the Vaishnavas, do they not? If some Vaishnavas do not follow these rules, instead, they behave in a completely opposite manner, then why can we not mention it? Why should that constitute Vaishnava Aparad? Gaur Kripa. Most certainly it will constitute Vaishnava Aparad. Even if we see some Vaishnava behaving against Shastriya rules, we must not indulge in Ninda. Instead, we should give him full respect as a sadhu deserves to be given. This is because the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Apiche tudoracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vavastito hisa. So this is a Vaishnava. Person sincere, the person is following, he makes a mistake. There are also Kali Chelas, people who are not Vaishnavas, but dress like ones. It's always best to err on the side of caution. However, if we ever disrespect the sadhu, it is an aparad. Brihat Naradiya Prana. Whoever does Hari Bhakti and chants the holy name, he may be good or bad. I pay him my obeisances. Nrsimha Puran, one who has bhakti for Krishna alone, even if he's seen to commit some sinful activities, he always emits the aura of bhakti, just as the moon, although blemished, is never defeated by darkness. As evidence, when we take the example of Marichi Rishi's 6 sons, who had laughed when they see Lord Brahma in a state of lust, rushing behind his own daughter. This aparad forced him to take birth from Devaki's womb in Kamsa's jail, and Kamsa killed them. Therefore, we must never ever show contempt for a Vaishnava. Chaitanya Bhagavat has strictly warned us. We shall never get any respite if we criticize a worthy Vaishnava, for his behavior is beyond our limited understanding. Sometimes a worthy Vaishnava commits the same activities as a sinful person. Only by Krishna's kripa someone can understand this. But there are others who fall in trouble of Vaishnav Ninda and perish. Those who do not fall in this pit, they survive in bhakti. I can see only one way out of this peril. It is best to glorify and behave humbly with everyone. In this mood, we must chant holy name and carefully hear from the great devotees. Then Krishna gives them divine intelligence. He crosses over the material ocean and no one can stop him. So it's really a mood, that you're not in that mood of criticizing or hearing criticism. And I can see from seeing those sadhus that I visit in Varsana, completely in that mood. Just the lens of respect, the liberality of dealing. Vivek, all right, I will not do Vaishnav Ninda. However, if someone comes to me and does the same, then how is it harmful? Of course it will harm you. If someone comes to you and does Vaishnav Ninda, you don't know whether that person is telling the truth or a lie. Yet your respect towards that Vaishnava will decrease, won't it? Immediately you will incur Vaishnav Ninda, Vaishnava Aparad. That is why Shastras have ordered us not to hear Vaishnav Ninda. This is militant. He's not giving an inch in terms of the consciousness of criticism. And they live it, and they chant all day. On hearing, this is Srimad Bhagavatam, on hearing Sri Krishna Ninda and Ninda of Krishna's devotees, those who do not leave the place, he loses all his sukritis and falls down to the hellish planets. The Vedas state that if we hear sadhu Ninda, we lose our sukriti and fall down in every birth. From all these statements made in Shastra, we can understand how dangerous is Vaishnava Aparad. So whoever wishes to progress in bhakti must be extremely careful about Vaishnava Aparad. It is best to consider every Vaishnava as Sri Govinda's dear devotee, show him respect and pay obeisances. Vivek, does this mean that even a Babaji should show respect to a householder and pay obeisances? Gaur Kripa, a Vaishnava is a Vaishnava. He may be a Grihastha or renounced, that is immaterial. We must never distinguish. We must show respect, behave respectfully, and pay dandavats to every Vaishnava. Otherwise, we'll be committing an offense. Sri Bhagavan sees our heart, whose heart is always filled with Krishna, and he's not interested in material things, is a true Vaishnava. Sri Gita has defined sannyas as he who never desires anything material, is devoid of anger and envy, known to be an eternal sannyasi. A pure devotee like him who is devoid of such dilemma very easily transcends material bondage and gains liberation. And the Gita says, whoever discharges his duties without expecting any fruit thereof, he alone is a sannyasi, a yogi, and not one who has given up all the activities. Anyway, it's very balanced, but at the same time, he says, when there's a sannyasi, you must respect that also. So, to be continued. Jamuna Jaya, you have any comments here?
Maharaj, thank you so much for class. What's the let's drop my notebook. What's the name of this book?
Obstacles to Devotion. It's a very rare book.
It's wonderful.
It's very rare.
I was just really meditating on hey everybody, Haribol. I seem to be getting the same message from everywhere. I'm reading the Madhurya Kandambini with a group, and we're on the Vaishnav Opera section. So it is really coming at me. And Bhakti Tirtha was giving class this morning for the Bhakti Center, and he was commenting on it. So it seems like it's a three-pronged effect. But what I really appreciated was when you said about when we are giving correction to someone, we have to think about where is it coming from. And you said most of the time it's coming from the false ego, which I think is really true. And then, but I loved your unpacking of why that is, because we're here. And the reason we're here in this world is because our false ego has this entity because we wanted to be the controller. And so that makes perfect sense. So I really spoke to me about how hard the battle it is for us. We got here because we're envious of God, and now we have this big false ego with us. So I was really appreciating that point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
Gail, do you have a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, this concept I hear all the time of virtue signaling,
Yes.
and I don't know. I always kind of a little fuzzy about it.
It means you're trying to show your righteousness, and you do it by criticizing someone who you feel you're better than.
Oh,
How would, Ian, would you define virtue signaling?
I think that's right, Rich. I think it's a expression of pride. It's yeah. I mean, I was struck at the beginning of the class, March. There were two threads. I think there was one about humility and one about Vaishnav apparat.
Yeah.
And so I wondered whether the root of our offences is pride. And I think when people are virtue signaling, it's coming from a place of pride.
Of pride. Yeah. Yeah, you want to be superior.
Yeah.
You want to be superior. So one way to do that is to be moral. But instead of really being moral, you just try to take up a cause of someone you feel is not moral or made a mistake, and you lead the charge, and then you show the world how righteous you are. That's what virtue signaling means.
okay. And so it sounds kind of like, if I'm in a position to criticize you, I must be better or
Right.
good,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Sal Govinda. Thank you for class.
Haribo.
Haribol.
Raghunath took Jack and Min to Nandagaon to his school.
Nice.
I think they put, Raghunath put a little video on the WhatsApp. Okay. Haribo.
Maharaj, are you going to be still commenting on this outside of the scope of the weekly Sangha? That it could be recorded, or?
I'm not sure. I think I'm just going to do this every Wednesday.
Okay.
Maybe if I do it here, I'll just go back to where we are, so we'll cover the whole thing.
Great. Thank you very
I can
much.
figure out a way to get you the book too. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Krishna-katha, Haribo. Okay, good. Who else wants to say hello?
Yavatsundari is here, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Where are you, Yavatsundari? You're in Vancouver?
Yes, I'm in Vancouver, Maharaj. Yeah.
Okay.
Srila Radhika is with me, but she was a bit late because it's very early morning here. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. You
Thank you
started
very
your
much.
yet?
Pardon?
Did you start your teaching yet?
Yes, I started since I came. Yeah, I'm doing research project, and yeah,
Okay.
at the university. Yeah.
Okay, it's probably a good time to be out of Iran because I spoke to Siddheshwari, and she said with that tension there of the potential war and that being
Yeah.
the center of it, she said there's a lot of anxiety, but she said her preaching there was never more successful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a very bad situation in Iran. Yeah.
Yeah. Ishwari Sundari, I saw you. Is that
Thank
you?
very
Hare
much.
What? Haribo?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for class.
Okay, you're on the way to work?
I'm on my way to work.
Okay, Haribo. Anybody else?
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo.
Sorry, it's loud in here. It's loud in here. I'm sorry. I just wanted to thank you for the class this morning.
You're the friend of Radha Priti?
Yes.
Thanks for coming on the class. Nice to meet you.
Oh, I'm very blessed to be in the class. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Radharpati, Haribo. Okay. Yeah. Good. Heavy class, huh? You can't hear me?
Yes,
Two of
we
us
can
said
hear
hello
you.
at the same time, so I'm not sure if you're talking to me or the other
I'm
person.
talking to you. I said it's a very powerful
Oh,
message.
yes, it was wonderful class. It was a
Okay.
great topic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here.
Okay. Tota. Mike. I see Mike. Nice to see you.
Maharaj. Just wanted to send some love.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Maharaj. This is
Maharaj.
Hemala Dharada.
Hemalata?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for class.
Okay. And Yvette, you got my message?
I did, thank you.
Think about it. You're welcome to try. Okay?
I feel like I'm not qualified, but
We'll talk about it. Okay?
okay. Thank you.
Anybody
Maharaj,
else? Yeah.
can I ask a question about your class?
Yeah. Okay. One question, because we have Damodar Astika in a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, when it was kind of related to Jamuna Jaya's reflection about when you correct somebody, most of the time it's from your false ego. What about if you feel misunderstood by somebody? Is it in your false ego to try to like explain yourself, or should you always just say, okay?
Well, that's not criticizing someone. You can tell someone that they misunderstood you. That's not a criticism necessarily. What do you think, Ian?
I think you can be in a state of truth and in a state of love at the same time. So, I mean, I know it's very high, but if one can hold oneself in a state of love and then speak the truth, then you're in safe space.
Yeah. Ian is professional at this. What was your work?
Well, I'm a management consultant, Maharaj, a bit of a parasite, really.
Okay, he does this for a living, but he said it's possible. It's very high to be on a level of truth and
love
at the same time. I know, in other words, it's the same point. But whether or not we're at that platform, and my point is generally we're not. But it doesn't mean you can't be. Parents have to correct their children. It's not like Vaishnav Ninda, pick up your clothes. It's done out of love. So these are people that are chanting all day and they're protecting their kripa, so it's going to be an extremely high standard. Once you get out in the world, you have to work, you have to manage, you're more challenged. But I think you understand the principle. That's where I feel. I'm reading this and I say, wow, this is going to, I shouldn't criticize Vaishnavas. Then I go out in the day and I see how many opportunities there are for correction or to tell someone about somebody else because it's a practical matter that they need to know. And you're always kind of like resisting. If you're fixed in Shastra, you're always resisting. So when you step over the line and when you have to correct, it's after some thought. It's not just impulsive.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Amala.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very important.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm just going to look at the different people that are on the class so I know everybody who's here today. Okay. See you again if you're here on Sunday, we'll do the end of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita.